Okay, we're here to paint Corot Landscape Study 2. This is the handout, and we're going to start by measuring the rectangle. So I've measured it already. It's 7. I'll show you here. 7 by 4 3/4. So we've got to find the center of the rectangle, which is going to be 4.5 on this side. And then 3 is the center because this is a 9 by 6-inch piece of paper. Okay, so 4 3/4 divided by half is 2 3/8. So I'm going to mark on 2 sides so that I can join these together. And if I'm not sure, I can make 3 tick marks. I feel pretty sure I'm going to make 2. Line them up. Okay, half of 7 is 3.5. So if I put I'm putting my 3.5 mark of my ruler onto the center line, and then I'm marking the 0 and the 7. I'm going to do that twice. And we have spent a lot of time measuring rectangles throughout the upper school courses and some of the lower school courses, so you should know how to do this. If you're having trouble, get help. This tells me where to tape off. I'm going to ignore this part, these marks, because I'm just going to paint over them. I'm using regular masking tape. I'm going to stick it to my clothes. This one down here, I'm just gonna tape right along the edge, and I want to tape the edge of my paper, the edge of my rectangle. I'm sorry, I want to tape the edge of my paper down, but also tape the edge of my rectangle because I don't want to worry about not having nice clean lines. So I'm putting double tape up here. I could have scooted that one down and I didn't, but these sides are a little too wide to do that, so I'm going to need double tape. I'm going to line this up along the edge. Okay, I'm ready to paint here. I can move my ruler out of the way. And I'm gonna set up my palette. So we have a limited palette. We just have primary colors in black and white. And we're gonna set them up in rainbow order so that the colors next to each other can be as analogous as possible. We don't really have analogous colors here because our palette is so small, but we want to build good habits and always know where to expect our paint to be. I have put a little too much yellow out. And I'm running out of blue, so I need a new one. There we go. And then I'm going to use black as a color because that's what we have in our color palette. don't want too white so that it's easier for me to keep at least one of those clean. And then I'm gonna put medium down. I did this last time, but it might have been a little bit hard to see. So I'm drawing a circle around my medium. Just if I'm an inexperienced painter, I might not remember that it's medium and not white. So that way it just creates a separation for me. Okay, so we had talked about with the previous Van Goyen that we want to make this as simple as possible. This is a much larger painting in person. Our caption says it's 22 by 31, so that's like, I don't know, almost like 3 to 4 times bigger than the painting that we're going to make. So we can't get all this detail in, but we want to explore how did Corot use color. So we're going to simplify to 3 colors because that's how we approach a landscape, and we're trying to practice that, and we're trying to learn from Corot. So I'm going to choose my 3 colors to be blue, pink, and green. And then I'll go back in at the end and I'll make a brown. So I really have 4 colors here. There's some more if I count these figures in the foreground here. They have colored robes on. But we'll see if we get to that. The main part of this is green, but it's layered over top of this sky and sea that's made from the blue and the pink. So let's just do a basic light blue and see where we get. Okay, this is much less muted than what Corot used. Corot is a romantic landscape painter. He's important because he was going out into the landscape and making short studies and wanted to really capture the feeling of the landscape itself. And he's really a precursor to and an inspiration to the Impressionists. Okay, so this is way too bright as a blue. I want to dull the intensity of this blue. So I want to think about what is on the opposite side of the blue on the color wheel, and that is orange. So I'm just going to make a little bit of orange here to make this simple for you to think about. I could put these directly in, but okay, I'm just going to put a tiny bit in here. Okay, that's definitely not enough. Let's put some more orange. Okay. Add some more white to part of this. And the blue that I have is not going to be the same as Corot's blue. He's got more of like an ultramarine, and I've got like a Prussian blue, I think, here, which might actually be different. It's phthalo blue, and that actually might be a little bit different than what you have. So we're going to work with the blue that we have, acknowledging that there's not quite the same pigment. I'm going to add a little red, just see if I make it purpler. Let's see. Nope, I don't think that helped. Okay, let's make the pink. So we'll start by making a basic pink. So Corot has big bushy trees in his foregrounds, oftentimes, and also includes figures as a part of the landscape that may have been inspired by ballet, which is interesting. Because if you think about a ballet set, maybe it would have been inspired by a romantic landscape in the 1800s. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of yellow because I want this to be more of like a perfect, like this sunset pink. Okay, so that's 2 of my colors. Now for this one, I have two versions of it. I have a darker blue that I'm probably gonna need over here, and then I'm gonna go with the green. So green is obviously blue. Now my blue is a lot stronger, probably don't want that much, than my yellow, so I've got to put quite a bit more yellow. Nope, I'm going back to a lot of blue. I'm just gonna put even more yellow because I put a little too much out here anyway, so. And I want to go for something like this maybe, or this. So this is just a regular green that I can make. That is that color. These two. But if I push it towards this one just a little bit, I had added the complement. I'm gonna add a little of this orange and just see if I can make it an earthier green. That's not enough orange. And I can just change part of it. I don't have to change the whole thing if I'm not quite sure what I want to do. Yeah, that's okay. I can work with that. So let me put all of this. Okay, that's okay. So let's lay this out. So I'm gonna think about, I can actually utilize this knowing that this is the middle of the painting, this is the middle of the painting. So I'm gonna try to figure out how far does this blue go over? And it's dark at the top. And then got blue down here. I'm just gonna lay that in. I've got little spurts of yellow. I might wanna put that in at the end because that's really showing the sunshine. So what we wanna think about is simplifying to 3 colors, but then sometimes there's an accent color that there's just a little bit of that helps us to bring interest to the painting and articulate what's happening a little better. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I go. This is a nice contour here along the edge of the city. This pink is a little too intense. I need to lighten it up some because some of this is very light, and I can go back in here and make those clouds and stuff, but we're gonna see how far we get first. Now I'm gonna expect to feather some of this green over top of here, and you see how he's done this brilliant thing of layering the pink underneath and then putting the green on the top, and it shows the light coming through the trees, which is fantastic. Looks like some of this might have been stuck on after the green, but some of it is underneath. me think, what inspired him? What kind of landscape was he actually looking at? Okay, I've got some of this pink over here. And I don't want to just paint the whole thing pink, because then I'm not helping myself build a structure of a painting. I want it to be a painting the whole time. I don't want it to be like a field of a color and then I'm adding things to it artificially. I always want to be responding to the image, because that's going to help me understand what Corot was doing. Okay, these might not be exactly placed right, but we'll get it in here. Okay. Let me get some of this lighter blue in here. And I'm gonna have to add a little bit of white to it, I think, because it is quite light. And I can actually glaze some. I actually think that's what Corot did right here. This is a little early for glazing, but going in. That's more pink than blue, so let me just seek for a little blue here. This is gray. Almost like a purplish here, but respond to the painting. So you're responding to the painting might be a little bit different than my response. I don't want you to make my painting. I want you to make your own painting of Corot. Okay, I'm gonna go with that for now, because that at least lays in the color where it needs to be. Okay, I'm gonna reserve this brush and then pick a different brush. Go in here with this green. I'm gonna start simple. Okay, I need this to be a brown or green, because it's just too bright compared to this blue and pink. Okay, the only primary color that I don't have in green, even though I have added some of this a little bit, is red. And if I add all three of the primary colors, I'm going to get something like brown. So, okay. We'll work with these together. Just trying to lay in the color. I can go back in here in a little while and put in some shadow there, and then this light seems critical, this light, but and again, as I start to paint this, I'm seeing more deeply. I'm looking and noticing more details about how Corot has constructed his painting. I'm going to leave these girls out of it for now. I'm going to count this. This looks like a coffin or some kind of box. it's a bench. Okay, I don't want to totally cover this up. So I'm just using green for the whole tree, even the branches, and then I'll deal with the rest later. And I'm avoiding some of this wispy stuff because I want to do that a little bit differently with a different brush. But again, we're doing a color study. We are not copying a painting exactly. We're just trying to get what we can, but mostly look at the composition, the way the colors have been used, and see if we can practice our color mixing skills. Basically drawing from observation, copying shapes. Okay. That's kind of it. I think this goes out a little further. All right. Now to keep things simple, let me see if I can use some of these colors that I already have mixed to make some new things. Try to make this gray over here a little more red. And I want to get this shape in here. Okay, so that pushes the space back just a little bit, which is helpful from this foreground. Okay, then we'll make brown. Out of this green. Put in some of this darker stuff. Allows me to get a little bit of light and shadow in here. And I'm going to come over here and get the dark part of this bush. And this foreground is dark, and what that does is allow the background, the light in the background, to really be more dramatic as it comes through. Then I'm going to bring out this feathering a little bit more. What am I using? Yeah, I'm using this brown, and because it's not green. And actually, I think I want to switch to this round brush. Maybe a little better. What I need. And I don't want a lot of paint on my brush because I want it to kind of be this wispy. Corot's painting in oil. He's got some opportunities for blending the paint that I do not, because I'm doing a tiny painting in acrylic and he's doing a decent sized painting in oil. The oil is what part of what makes this richness of the paint come through even almost 200 years later. 150 years. And I have some other colors that are in here in this tree that make it interesting. Just gonna use what I have. About the balance of the tree, like how much darkness and pigment do I have on one side versus the other one. I'm just gonna add a little bit of red here to make it different from the trunk. And once I have my structure with my three colors, I can mix a little bit elsewhere and it works. Really bright little pieces there. They're a little more orange than they are white. Okay. And there's some puffs over here. side. So respond to what you see in the painting, because doing that is going to help you respond to the landscape eventually. Okay, and one of the things I love about the paint application that Corot has given us here is I do think that he's gone back and gone over some of this a little bit. So almost hidden it and then brought it back out again. Okay. So in order to do a final pass over this, I want to look again at just a couple of things. I want to make sure I have my canvas covered. Okay. There's a little bit of blue in there. Okay, and maybe lastly, just to top it off, I'll put these little girls in here. The one's like a dark pink, because they really are integral to the painting. Add some green. One of them is blue. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna let this dry, and I think I've done a color study of Corot. I familiarized myself with Dance Under the Trees at the Edge of the Lake, so when I go to the National Gallery, I will delight in looking at this painting. And oh, one more thing I want to do. I thought of this earlier. I want to put this highlight in here of this branch. That's too light. Okay. So we'll do another Corot next time, and I hope you enjoyed this painting.